welcome everyone. It's been 2 years. Welcome to Provider Patient Index New and Next. Hope everyone had fun last night. Good time. And to get started, hello, I'm Jim Derrickson. I'm the product manager for HealthShare Patient Index Provider Directory. And with me today are two of my team members, Melody and Elson. Wave, they're in the back there. So hey, let's get started. There's a lot to actually go through. I'm going to do a background introduction to both Provider Patient Index. We're going to go through what is new and next with Provider Directory. You'll see a demo of some new features of Provider Directory, and you'll also see what is next and upcoming for Patient Index. After that, you get understanding the capabilities of the product, some background, how you can use it, recent features, and hopefully how it can benefit your organization. So let's start with Provider Directory New and Next. The vision of Provider Directory is sharing clean provider information. And as you may know, provider information is often fragmented and distributed across an organization. And what Provider Directory does is it pulls all that information together and it builds a single source of truth. But not only that, it allows you to share that information downstream, whether it's with the user clinician registry in the unified care record to drive notifications by using identifiers and endpoints for notifications, or populating the FHIR repository, which is used for the CMS solution pack. Additionally, you can use Provider Directory also to push updates to downstream health systems that need clean, updated provider information. So the value of Provider Directory as a single source of truth, how it does it is it pulls information together from multiple sources. In this example, you have records from EastCare, an echo credentialing system, in a WestMed clinic. We pull that together by matching, using our matching engine. We apply data governance rules. We build a single source of truth. And this provider record, you have it as a single source of truth that can drive many useful applications within healthcare. Provider attribution, it supports no surprise billing because we bring in all provider information, including network participation, and KPIs. There's also, it helps prevent referral leakage and it improves provider utilization. So when we talk about Provider Directory, it's important to know that the center of it is the location where care is delivered. And where the providers are participating in those locations, as well as the organizations. We're also, we build the organization hierarchy relationships that represent your organizations. And additionally, we track the network participation for providers, as well as the plans that map to those networks, and also the administrators who associate with those plans, as well as managing the inter-org relationships. Next, what we do with Provider Directory is you can ingest information and it can be translated. And we do this by taking in multiple feeds of information, whether it's NTEDs, flat files, HL7 master file notifications, or XML. We then prepare this information by screening out invalid information, cleaning information, or validating. Additionally, we split out the information into unique records for individual providers or organizations, locations, addresses, and networks. But then we match those, we assign a common enterprise ID. We also maintain the relationships and we build a match work list. So what we're doing with Provider Directory is be able to ingest information, prepare it, split, match, put it on a work list. And then additionally, we build, once it's matched, we consolidate it, we apply business rules, we select the appropriate data, we also deduplicate, and we put it on a review work list, and we build a record history. Lastly, what we do is at this point, you can share the provider information. You can put it on a push service to send out to systems downstream, or you can make it available via REST services or via FHIR APIs or an extract. Additionally, it populates the provider registry. But the focus with provider directory is building or leveraging HealthShare's strongest strength of interoperability, leveraging identity management, and data governance. And what we're doing now, new with provider directory, is we recently added an NPES endpoint service so that endpoint information can be ingested from CMS. We're also made updates for the FHIR PDX PlanNet, and we also added a new public LDAP API for better ingestion of information. For identity management, we've added recently phonetic search, location search, search by organization type, and additionally, we've added FHIR-based new patient search, which is based upon the FHIR standard for the new ways of accepting patients that are listed. As well as, so you can have different categories of accepting of patients, like not only accepting new patients, but accepting failing members or not accepting patients. There are several different categories of that. We've also now added improvements to our data model extensions. These improvements, I'll go into them in later detail. Lastly, for access configuration, for data governance, we've added access configuration, which allows you to control what information can be shared and provide directory that's role-based that can actually drill down to the table and field level. We've also added concurrency control, which prevents multiple users from updating provider information at the same time. And we've added add and edit capability for managing network and plan information. We've also added a discard feature, which I'll go into later as well, which will show how you can discard information for updates if you ingested invalid or bad data, so that you can actually pull out incorrect information from your directory. Additionally, the menu tab extension feature is, I'll go into that and give a demo of that. That allows you to launch other web applications from provider directory. So I'm just gonna go now and give a demo of provider directory. We've added a new feature of provider directory called access configuration. And for access configuration, you can go in there and manage permissions for roles. In this case, we're gonna go through business teams. And for the business team, we're gonna drill down and show how you can control access for different records in the directory. You can define it. These are additional custom site roles that you can define in the directory, and you can define what information can be added or updated for those roles. So if we look at the permissions defined for the business team, we can see that for some records you have view, view and edit, and view only information. If you go into, we're gonna look at the individual record, where you can actually have custom role access. And under the custom role access, there is, you can define at the section level if people can have view, edit, or no access is all. You can also expand out if they have view or edit information. In here, we're gonna actually see what the provider record looks like without any role permissions added to it. And there is, here you can see there's no permissions or restrictions on the identifier section. You can add and update the backgrounds, and as well as on specialty. If you look at the same provider record with the business role applied, we can now see that the identifiers cannot be edited. Not all fields are available. Specialty is view only, and education is add edit capability enabled. It's important to also note that these access configuration roles and permissions apply to both public and internal REST APIs. So not only in the features in provider directory, but also in the, if you want to query from provider directory, if you want to share information, the roles of assigned access in the APIs will automatically enforce those permissions. Additionally, the permissions apply to all features in provider directory now. So that includes the overview, contributing records, history, and link manager. Permissions can be now defined for all domain tables and fields in provider directory. This also includes if you're doing data model extensions, And we've also, the access configuration is using the HealthShare standard single sign-on and OAuth. So also I'm going to go and talk about the discard feature. And the benefit of the discard feature is that if you receive an update to the directory that's incorrect or invalid, you can simply remove that update. And this is an example for Fred Johnson. You can see you expand out the history. So you can see that there was an update received for Fred Johnson. And the update from WestMed changed both the name and the identifier for the provider. And it changed it from a valid tax ID for the provider to an invalid one. And if we go to the discard update, you can actually remove that update from WestMed. And so that will throw out that update and will revert it to how it previously looked. If you look at the current screen after you do the discard, you'll see that the discard event has occurred. The source record that was removed is showed. You can see that the past update from WestMed is now flagged. And additionally, you can also discard updates even that occur in the past. So I just demonstrated a single discard, but you can also do a bulk discard. And this is a discard that allows you to actually select by both the data source and the time range all updates that were received to remove it from the directory. So if you were inbounding a record that had leading zeros added or removed, you can back it out and remove it. You can run this both in dry mode or in verbose mode at the same time, so you can actually see the changes that you're going to make, how many records are impacted before you actually do the discard. And so for the menu tab feature that we added in Provider Directory, we have standard menu tabs for task list, master browser, manual entry, and administration. But we've added the ability to actually call and add tabs to launch applications. This includes, if you want to launch into a workflow engine, reporting or frequently asked questions, you can modify a JSON file and launch into those applications. It recognizes the single sign-on session cookie, and it's also controlled by site-defined roles. So if you want to limit the access to who has the ability to access those tabs, you can. It's also worth noting in the latest release of Provider Directory, we added data model extension enhancements. So Provider Directory, you can extend the data model. And we now prevent you from modifying standard fields. We allow you from backing out changes. If you were to add something, remove it, add it back in, that's supported. You can also kick off multiple compiles at the same time, and we updated our documentation. So it's also worth noting that in this release, we also had some fire updates. So we updated the qualification extension for a practitioner role, and organization. That's a quick overview of what we have. But this is a recap of all the new features in Provider Directory with our focus on interoperability, identity management, and data governance. So going forward for our next release, our focus remains constant. Things that we'll be working on, we're committed to FHIR. The DaVinci PlanNet evolution will go forward. We're going to be adding a bulk export to Provider Directory as well, which is in alignment with the CMS latest mandates. We'll also support FHIR ingestion. We also plan to add a HL7 master file service as well. For identity management, we're going to be updating our UI to use the Frost UI framework. We'll also adopt the single sign-on OAuth support for the data steward model. We'll also be, this is setting the groundwork for us to go to provider self-service, where providers could log into a directory and update their information. There's some operational tasks around that we plan to add. We also plan to add geolocation search and the ability to purge history and datagrams from the Provider Directory to reduce its footprint. For data governance, we're going to be adding some data quality dashboards to manage the data in Provider Directory as far as what's inbound, what's been received, and also what you're currently managing, similar to what is done in Patient Index. Additionally, we also plan to add some reporting for network coverage and adequacy. And before I go into that, The timeline for this is generally the next 18 months. The first areas that we're going to start is the updating our UI, adopting the single sign OAuth, and also modifying our user management to allow providers to sign in the directory so they can do that self-management. Today, the ONC has a vision that they recognize the burden of managing provider information falls both to providers and payers. What they hope through FHIR interoperability is to reduce that burden. Today in healthcare, literally, a couple $2 billion a year is spent credentialing, onboarding providers, and getting that information up to date to drive healthcare. Unfortunately, that information is often, out of date, inaccurate for all that effort. But having these interoperability standards will improve that. The other part of this is allowing providers to update and test their own information and sharing that information downstream to systems for patient access or healthcare workflows. And from seeing where we're going with the provider roadmap, you can see how we align with the ONC vision, and also how this supports the No Surprise Billing Act as well. So right now I'm going to transition to patient index. And today the challenge in healthcare is that patient information comes from many different sources, and you're now getting patient information from more sources than ever, whether it's due to COVID, consumerism in healthcare, or just growth of your organization's merger to acquisitions. And the benefit of patient index is it allows you to pull that together, whether it's for the unified care record, interoperability, or for your enterprise applications. And the vision of patient index is providing an accurate, well-performing matching engine that is easy to install, configure, and manage. And so just to kind of recap for people who aren't familiar with patient index, it's the it's built on the InterSystems linkage engine, MPRL, which allows matching of patient records. It's a member of the HealthShare solutions. It's standard-based. You can customize the interface. It's high-performing, flexible, and scalable. You can send information to it with our complete suite of interoperability tools. But the pieces of patient index at the heart is the record matching engine. And this can be deterministic, probabilistic, or custom rules. There's also a whole record reviewer that allows you to see all the records associated with a patient, whether it's the same enterprise ID and they're linked, or if they're not linked. We also have workflow integration where the patient index matches are actually put on a work list so they can be reviewed. We have a composite record that allows you to select the best information from all the sources that's contributing to patient index. We also have a data quality dashboards that allows you to examine the information in patient index to see, what facilities are sending bad information, what are good. We also have audit and security. There's configurable rules in the linkage engine definition, whether it's the standard rules you have or if you want to add to that. And again, it's standard-based APIs. That is what patient index is today. What we're going to be doing next is we're going to focus on accuracy, scalability, and interoperability. The last few releases, we've focused more on provider directory because of the demands for the CMS solution pack, opening up directory APIs, no surprise billing. But there's a lot of good things that we're going to be doing with patient index really soon. We're going to be adding referential match service, so we're doing that work right now. We're looking to do some algorithm enhancements based upon the updates to US CDI-1, the new administrative gender fields. We'll be updating our gender matching algorithm. We're looking to start using biometric IDs that are passed to us from biometric systems downstream. We're modifying how we evaluate telecoms, email, and mobile phones. We may weight those slightly different because we've seen those have more importance in matching a patient. And we're also going to update our search to allow searching on more parameters and more telecom specific information. For scalability, the big news is that patient index will be, in this release, we're working on to have it being able to be deployed in a Docker container and we'll be working on that. We're targeting that for this fall release, which is really exciting. We're also doing a lot of work with scalability of linkage rebuilds, and we've gotten feedback from you that scalability is not just around managing large patient populations, but it's high volume transactions. It's also managing patient records across many multiple sources. And the demands of COVID, consumerism is actually driving more patient information to be brought into patient index need to be managed and assign that common enterprise ID. And lastly, our focus with HealthShare it's built on the Iris platform. We'll be leveraging the interoperability tools, and we plan to also have standalone FHIR support for patient index. Longer term, we're about bringing value quickly to customers. We're going to be focusing on faster deployment, whether it's through containers or pre-built integrations. Those are things we're looking to do. Again, as Iris grows and develops, patient index will benefit from that as well. And for both provider directory and patient index, we're looking to expand upon the regional support. Today, provider directory is available for US deployments. We've had a few implementations in the UK, but we'll expand that out. Patient index has been regionalized for France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. We're also looking to do that for Brazil. And we also now support South Africa for patient index. So the takeaways from provider directory, again, is interoperability, identity management, and data governance. It's very important in today to manage healthcare, to have these ways of managing provider information, because really there's a supply chain issue in healthcare. People can't find providers. Providers are underutilized. And frequently this is caused by bad information. And the role that provider directory serves is distributing that information across your organization so that you have up-to-date, accurate information for scheduling, referrals, and it's available to you. For patient index, take away this is that we're focusing on accuracy. We think that using referential match, fine-tuning our algorithm will be a really big improvement. There's a lot of things we want to do with scalability. Vertical scaling in the cloud deployment, supporting millions of transactions a day, large patient populations up to over 300 million. Patient index has been being frequently looked at to actually manage patient identities nationally. So we know that we have to focus on scalability, and we're quite committed to that. And lastly, interoperability, which is really at our core. I'm Jim Derrickson. Thank you for coming here. If you have any questions or either patient index, provider directory, let me know.
Could you expand a little bit on the referential match services? Is that going to be a feature that, based on some known referential data sets, or is it going to be one that InterSystems provides? What is that?
So we're looking at a couple of different vendors now, and how it will generally work is for a certain bandwidth of patients who are ambiguous or can't be resolved through the existing matching engine that you want to turn over to like a higher source to get information, we'll send that specific pairs and we'll call out to a referential service and see if they actually have additional information on them. They'll give us generally their ID, what they have in these national databases, which are built from hundreds of sources, and it is maintained and curated, and they'll give us a confidence score along with another ID for the other patient. And if they are the same, we'll say, okay, we'll trust that. You can configure those thresholds and we'll make that match. The third-party vendor we haven't selected. We're still working out those details. We have 2 that we're looking at today.
For provider directory, the access config, you mentioned, you went through how you can control internally who can view what. Did you mention that also can control what, like if you do an export, what gets shared?
We applied it to all APIs that allow information to be shared. So I believe it also applies to the extract. So any way that information can be pulled, it's being filtered, and I'll check with my team members.
We're sharing if you're sharing the directory with another organization. So we're a network. So if we're sharing our directory with in all of our organizations. Does that control what data elements or even what providers would be shared?
How you're sharing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
You could be sharing it through our existing REST APIs or other alternatives.
Yes, I guess either one. So with APIs that would be controlled.
REST APIs are filtered based upon the role-based access control that you saw.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because we have an extract service as well, which allows you to extract out an XML. The APIs, both public and internal, are controlled by the access configuration. And if I didn't mention it already, provider directory is an extensible data model. So any fields that you add to provider directory, you can also define permissions for that. The access configuration feature will actually render the overview forms of those fields. So we allow you to modify our forms. If you modify the forms, place the new fields on them, you can define the permissions through access configuration. Any other questions?
So for your, and you might have covered this, but for your provider registry, you support different methods of intaking the data, but you also broadcast it too. So if we need to, like, okay, we have a credentialing system and we need to get that information in, do the matching and the identity management, and then broadcast that out to other systems. Do you support both those capabilities?
As far as ingesting or being able to transform outbound?
Yeah, both of them.
So yeah, inbound, we have both pre-built XML import services and also an NPIS service. The outbound we have for the push service, it's controlled by a change event, and you get a change event that occurs if a record was updated, corresponds to the record key, and you can build the transform to outbound it.
Okay, so it's like a API that you'll publish, and then we can basically take that data and transform it to
Yes.
HL7 or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Thank you for coming. Awkward session, but first one in person, so you're welcome. All right. Take care.